sekarang ni radio nak buat gimmick-gimmick tu tak relevan.
Tak relevan dah.
Tak. You nak lawak bodoh pun tak relevan because our listeners are not stupid. Because the difference is last time with radio there was no internet. Now there's internet, so you have so much of options.
True.
So our competition is not other radio stations. Our competition is the internet and the way we consume content. The content that we put out is impactful and respectful because that's the difference, right? With the internet it's all over the place, tak ada censorship semua. But we have our duty as Malaysians, as broadcasters and entertainers to know what we can and cannot say and how to educate people in the right way.
Hai, Vodcast Nona Superwoman Award hari ini secara eksklusif bersama Priya Dharshini Prabakaran yang merupakan Ketua Pengarah Astro Radio. Apa khabar Priya?
Baik, thank you for having me.
We're so honoured to have you hari ini.
It's a very interesting experience today. I think I selalu duduk kat office je and then I do my own thing. Don't really go out and I'm always not the focus. Selalu announcer je yang fokus kan. So it's a new experience.
Okey, baik, kita terus kepada soalan ya. Berusia 38 tahun, Priya merupakan ketua pengarah paling muda dalam Astro Radio, betul tak?
Betul. Actually, I'm 37. Belum 38. So I will continue that until I'm 38. But yeah, it is the youngest. When I got the job, also I was very nervous.
Okay.
I've been in the industry for about 10 years. And it's something different because I have done every job in radio.
So kita nak dengar macam mana agaknya pengalaman kerjaya Priya tu sampai ke tahap sekarang ni.
So actually bila I masuk industri ini, it was not my original plan.
Bukan.
So I actually wanted to, I studied psychology. Masa I still in university, I buat kerja part time sambilan. Kan? And my job was cruiser. So I was driving a car, giving away presents and stuff like that. And okay lah, dan lepas tu pergi kelas and all that kan. So untuk saya I thought it was just a part time job. Lepas tu bila dah graduate boleh jadi buat psychology. Tapi at that point my boss was like, why don't you try be a radio announcer? You macam ada personality sikit, boleh buat macam tu. So I cubalah untuk weekend. So again, weekday study, weekend buat part-time radio announcing. Then after that I realised actually I tak minat. I don't like being in the limelight kan. I selalu duduk kat belakang. So they asked me whether I wanted to try producing. Jadi breakfast producer untuk one show lah. And I preferred that. I enjoyed creating content and concept the ideas and whatever topics that we do. To see that come to life on air, to hear it on air was a different experience.
Satisfying,
especially bila content jadi, because sometimes you have it in your head tapi bila you suruh announcer buat, dia ada cara lain kan. So but at the end of the day it's very satisfying. And I think the reason why with radio, and I think even just creating content, the reason why it's so exciting and interesting is every day you buat benda lain. Kan? Yes. Every day you work on a topic, you work on a campaign, and then after that you move on.
Betul.
So you don't feel bored in that sense, and then to see the impact it has on listeners and Malaysians is a huge different feeling. It's fulfilling lah, very fulfilling. Yeah, so I ended up doing everything in radio. I've tried every other department. I've never said no to a job, and I've actually also never applied for a job. The only job I've ever applied was to be a cruiser. Lepas tu semua is like, nak cuba tak? Nak cuba. And I did it. And every time that happens, I always get very nervous. And I always will start doubting myself. And then I will say, I try lah. I will just try. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, Priya, mungkin boleh diceritakan sikit latar belakang family. Adakah your parents pun daripada bahagian radio juga ke? Atau macam boleh cerita sikit?
I grew up with music. my life has always been about music. My father's side of the family, semua they perform in bands. So it's very, when I was born already, it was very much into music was the main focus of my life. My father was into construction. My mother was a teacher. She's still a teacher. And it was really never about radio ke apa, tapi it was a lot more about music, and then actually at the age of when I was young, my parents never taught me all the nursery rhymes tu. I tak tahu Mary Sarah, Little Lamb semua. They taught me actual songs and music, kan? And then when I was 8 years old, actually I was in a choir. So I was trained to sing. Because my parents ni lain sikit. Normally parents would say you be a doctor ke lawyer ke apa. My parents told me to be a singer. And I said, okay, I cubalah. So at 8 years old, I went for training. And I was singing until the age of 20, I think. At the age of 15, I was offered a scholarship to sing. And tapi I nyanyi bukan biasa nyanyi tau. I nyanyi opera. So I'm a classically trained opera singer.
Kita nak dengar sikit.
Ayo, lama tak nyanyi dah.
Sikit lah.
Okay, I sing. Getaran jiwa melanda hatiku. Okay, cukup lah. Ni lama ni nak karaoke nanti. But yeah, no. But for me, I think, my parents had all these ambitions and all that untuk saya. Tapi for me, singing was a hobby, not a career. And I feel like I don't want to hate music. Because when it becomes a job, I worry, then I just start not liking the job anymore. So that's why for me, I recognize my talents, but I think I learned a lot when I was learning how to sing, because it had to make me very independent. I had to rely on myself. I used to travel the world for choir and all that kan. So I've sung for menteri, royalty and stuff like that. So I learned how to be independent. And that has made me grow up, I think at a younger age lah. And then after that, I went overseas to study actually for a while. And then because I'm the only child. So, and then when I was studying, then my mother told me that my father was not well. He had depression, and then he also had bipolar. So he was diagnosed with bipolar. So I made the decision to come back before I finished studying. So I was maybe about 3 years already studying there, and then kat Australia, and then I made the decision to come back. Because I'm the only child, and my mother cannot do this alone.
Yalah, you nak bersama dengan keluarga.
Correct. So I made the decision to come back. Tapi the problem with that was because my education kat sana, dia tak boleh transfer credit. So actually at that point, I was 24, I think. I had to start studying all over again.
Alamak.
So I had to start the education process all over again. But I knew because I really wanted to do psychology, and I didn't want to give up on this. So. Normal people take maybe about 3-4 years to graduate kan. I took 8 years. I only graduated at 28. While I was actually already working and everything, I would still go in for classes whenever I can. And I only graduated at 28. Yeah.
Okay, and your first job masa tu, lepas tu?
Was radio lah. So it was memang already at 28 when I already had joined. I was at another radio station. And I was at that point already scheduling music. So I was the music director for one of the stations lah. So that was at that point then that radio station shut down. So everybody dapat package. I je yang satu they keep as the only staff.
I see.
So my job was to every day just schedule music. And then after that I left for a while. I ended up, I said, okay, maybe I go and try something new. Maybe because I've never had that break kan. I've never taken time off for myself to figure out maybe I should do something else. So I ended up going to a music label, and I did marketing and promotions for international artists. But then I realized that that's not for me. The reason being is because I think it comes back to doing something different every day. Something that has to excite me. And then at one point I said, so I quit my job, and I said I was going to be a e-hailing driver.
Oh my God.
I said, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to do this for myself. Because my life has always been, I'm a planner. I always feel like I must plan and everything must be safe and stable, you know. So when I quit my job and I said, I bought a new car and I said, okay, it's a new car, nice car, I can drive and, you know, and go and just maybe until I figure out what I want to do. And then that last week of work, I went to Astro because one of my jobs is to service radio stations. And I brought the new team. And I said, hi, this is the new team. I'm leaving. Then they said, you nak pergi mana? Be a driver.
E-hailing.
Then they all like, betul ke ni? Kau tipu lah? I said, no, really. And then as soon as I walked out of Astro, I get a text saying, do you want to just do a 3-month job with Astro? Because we need help for this short period. So I was thinking about it and I was like, okay lah. They said, okay, you come on Monday. This was Friday. And then Monday they say you come in. And it's been now 7 years. I am now the head of Astro. So whatever that I thought at that point, and I said, oh, it's only 3 months only. And I told my friends, I said, it's only 3 months. No, it's been 7 years.
7 years. Priya, 7 years experience agaknya apa. Saat paling struggle untuk memimpin satu company team radio ni?
I think yang paling susah is because all my rakan sebaya, when I started with them macam 7 years ago in Astro, they all are still there, kan? But sekarang I dah jadi boss. So the difference is now it's very lonely to be in this space. And I mean, it's not like anything has changed ke apa, but I guess they look at me different, kan? So kalau nak pergi makan pun macam lain sikit lah, like boleh lepak ke tak, you know? So I need to, you know, in that sense, try and like hang out with them on certain points, but also at the same time give them that space to just be lah. So sometimes it get very lonely lah. I think that would be the biggest struggle. And I think the second thing is because of my age, is sometimes people don't take me seriously. Macam, you know what you're doing or not? You know, you don't have much experience. You know, I've been in this industry 20 years. I've been in the industry 30 years. And I don't think it's because of that, you know. But what has happened is because I also respect a lot of people there who have been much longer. So I think initially when I first got this role, I spent a few months just listening to everybody, observing what their styles is. And this is where my psychology degree comes into play, kan? So I know how to handle people. And again, with different generations, different age groups, you have different ways of dealing with people. So that was also a challenge. It's much better now. I think because I've proven myself also. So if they come to me with a problem, I always don't promise people that I can fix the problem. I will do my best, right? Yes. And if I don't know the answers, I will go and ask the questions. But at the end of the day, I'm going to try. And you will see that I have my effort lah is put into it.
So saya rasa memang pengetahuan psikologi tu sangat berguna sekarang.
Sekarang my sijil I nak letak kat bilik I. Because everybody ask me, you tak guna you punya psychology? Every day I guna psychology.
Yeah. So Priya, kita nak tanya sebagai ketua ni kan, dengan macam-macam cabaran ni, agaknya psikologi tu mungkin ada sedikit yang boleh kita apply dalam kehidupan seharian kan. Jadi macam Priya, apa yang you selalu nasihatkan pekerja-pekerja you tentang yelah kesihatan mental ke?
I think for them is what I always do, and I memang selalu practice this, right? This is work-life balance. I think we are not our job. We cannot be defined by the work that we do, kan? So we are always assuming that we have to put a lot of hours in to be then successful in your career. It's not.
Okay,
You know, it's at the end of the day, it's really about doing the best that you can to your ability, but also at the same time having a life outside of work. And I think this is what I always tell my team, right? And even with the announcers, the producers semua kan, you won't get experience and topics kalau you duduk kat office je. Kan? A lot of it actually, it comes from the experience that we do outside. It's the life we live outside. Then only you can do better in your work.
Yes.
Because then you would kind of know who you are as a person. You know, a lot of my experiences, I don't actually learn from the job. You know, I learn from the people around me, the way I communicate with my friends and family. That is the culture that we're trying to do, which is that you don't really have to work on weekends. Yes, radio is 24/7, right? If there's a crisis, masa pandemic pun, we worked. But does it define me as a person? No, I am not just Priya the director. You know, I am Priya the person. Yeah.
Okay, Priya. dalam era digital sekarang ni kan, masih relevan lagi ke industri penyiaran radio ni?
I suka soalan tu, tahu. Because I think everybody thinks radio is dead because we have so much of options.
True.
Right? But at the end of the day, what radio gives you is the human touch. Kan?
Betul.
So radio is not dead, but radio needs to evolve. Radio needs to make a difference. And that one we acknowledge, Last time I think because we listened to FM je. Kan? We in the car, we will listen to the songs and the whatever content that we have, but that's only on one space. So sekarang ni, we don't call our stations radio station. We call ourselves brands. Yeah. Because for us, we are on air, we are online, we are on ground. So the content that you get, and it's long form, even with podcasts that we do, it's still long form, it's still content, it's still relevant. And it's an audio space. So we have now evolved from radio to audio. Right? It is not dead, and in fact with sekarang ni semua nak jadi nombor satu. So this is a great time for radio, and I think after the pandemic, actually we notice is more listeners are tuning into radio, because with the pandemic, a lot of people felt alone. True. But there was still a voice on radio that was talking to me, relatable. Because they are also in a pandemic. Dia pun tak boleh keluar kat rumah. Dia buat show kat rumah. So I can say things on air. I'm like, today I'm not having a good day. And that's where radio needs to be slightly different. Sekarang ni radio nak buat gimmick-gimmick tu tak relevan.
Tak relevan dah.
Tak. You nak lawak bodoh pun tak relevan. Because our listeners are not stupid. And we need to acknowledge that our listeners are not stupid. Because the difference is, last time with radio, there was no internet. Now there's internet. So you have so much of options. True. So our competition is not other radio stations. Our competition is the internet and the way we consume content.
Betul.
So we just need to make sure that the content that we put out is impactful and respectful. Because that's the difference, right? With the internet, it's all over the place. Tak ada censorship semua. But we have our duty as Malaysians, as broadcasters and entertainers, to know what we can and cannot say and how to educate people in the right way.
Kalau cakap pasal radio ni, saya sendiri, setiap pagi tu penting tau untuk dengar radio dalam kereta. Dan benda tu yang menentukan mood saya hari tu. Jadi kalau macam Priya sendiri, radio ni boleh bagi impact macam mana kepada wanita? So it's making women feel like they are heard. That is, I think, something that before this, if you notice also, there's actually a lot of male radio announcers, kan? So now we've put more females. And the thing is, it's not macam perempuan lagi baik dari lelaki. It's not that. It's not a competition, but we have our own strengths, we have our own weaknesses, but we can talk about it. And to give women the space to talk, that is what we want to do. And give women that space to be heard. And we can see that growing trend now with more of the content that we do also lah. So I think in times last time also when we talk about content also, there are things that dia selalu nak cakap, perempuan lebih baik dari ni, or perempuan selalu macam ni. We don't have, it's not a competition, and also there are a lot of topics now that we need to talk about, which is, if you want to talk about menopause, why can't we talk about that on radio? Why are we censoring ourselves just because ni tak baik lah nak cakap? But women have a right to be heard. True. And we have a right, and because the thing is, a lot of people also, they don't know where to get this content. If they are hearing it and normalizing it on radio, it shows that it's not taboo. So we have nothing to be ashamed about, and that's where radio wants to do for all genders. Okay Priya, kalau zaman-zaman dulu kan kita ada ramai announcer wanita yang terkenal. Kalau ingat zaman-zaman RTM dulu kan. Kalau macam sekarang ni, macam ni kita nak kembalikan zaman radio tu sebagus macam waktu dulu?
The difference is, masa zaman that time, the way people consume content, or the content that people wanted also was lain.
Betul.
Kan? So now I cannot go back to that generation. And I think this is where a lot of times listeners also, they minat something and we don't like change, right? We all don't like change. If I like my favourite nasi lemak, I will eat my favourite nasi lemak every day, right? But in life sometimes the shop tutup, then nak buat apa? Kena cari baru lah. So in that sense, we have to evolve. But we recognize that at the end of the day, these people were the foundation of radio, and that's why we get to evolve and be where we are today. I mean, macam Kutsia Kaha is now back in radio. She's now on Light FM, So there is a place for everybody, It could be on podcast also, but I think to try and put everybody back into a mold is going to be a bit hard. Everybody needs to come with their own style, and then we find a way whether, in terms of the content, needs to stand out more than the announcer because everybody brings something different to the table.
So siapa idola Priya dalam menjadi seorang ketua ni?
And you know, it's interesting. I memang tak ada idola.
Tak ada,
Tak ada. Like, I mean, I learn from everybody. I learn from my friends. I learn from my family. For me, it's like, I think, to be fair, if you want to, I know as weird as this sounds, I am my own idol. Because at the end of the day, I trust my gut. I have to, there are a lot of things that I'm learning on macam mana nak jadi manager. And I do that by myself, right? Because at the end of the day, whatever I do, I can ask people for opinions, tapi at the end of the day, I'm making my decision. And what is my legacy that I want to live? That is something that I am the only one that can decide. You know, so I read a lot. I mean, I watch a lot of movies, and I take from experiences of others, and then I try and apply it to my life. Yeah.
Okay Priya, hari ni Priya dengan baju yang cantik kan, mungkin sebenarnya bila kita nak jadi ketua ni, kita di mana-mana saja orang memerhatikan kita. Jadi mungkin Priya ada cara pemakaian yang tertentu ataupun macam mana you nak membina confident level bila lah di hadapan.
It's very interesting because actually I selalu suka duduk belakang kan. My team knows I don't even like to give speech. You know, I always don't like to be in the limelight. So every time if I say we need to push Astro Radio, I will use my announcers. You know, and then when I had to give my first town hall and all, and I deal a lot with body issues in the past. You know, I've always been slightly bigger, even masa kat sekolah and all that, right? And I think my confidence before this, I thought it was always about being funny, and I could put that front in front. But then I think I'm not always very strong, right? I mean, I've gone through depression when I was during the pandemic. Actually, was quite bad. I would be at home, and then I had a lot of issues in terms of like, who am I as a person? I had a lot of panic attacks, doubting myself and the way I looked, you know, and in terms of just even moving forward from a time where kita duduk kat rumah je kan, and then when you're in your head, then there's too much going on, and then after that, and that's why I think I am my biggest supporter. And I do a lot of macam meditation, I do a lot of exercise, and I think the biggest thing now that I do is I talk to people. Before this, I realized that because a woman in this position, you have to always look strong. Right? And you always have to be, you keep this image that you are perfect and nothing is the problem. But actually, that's not true. You know, and instead of actually last time just sitting at home and thinking about it in my head and only being in my head, now actually I found a way to talk to people. You know, you find your good support system. I think that's a very important thing. It doesn't have to be people from the industry. Just people that won't judge you. You just let it out lah. That is the healthiest way, and it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be perfect, and that's what I have realized with this journey, kan. And like even with dressing like this, you know, before this I was always chasing to be perfect. But what is perfect? Why I'm not trying to be somebody else. I am perfect. So that is a journey that I think I'm learning a lot more on this in this role, outside of just doing that work. As for myself, I have now evolved as a different person, and I'm excited to see my journey because I think I baru start. So you know, as we go on, and maybe the next time I'm on this podcast again, I might be a different person. You know, this might be my everyday wear. Kalau tak, I lepak je. You know, so it's interesting to see where my journey is going to go.
Okay, sebelum kita berakhir, mungkin Priya boleh kongsikan sikit, ada tak kata-kata ataupun wisdom words yang you selalu pegang dan boleh kita kongsikan sama-sama?
I think I have two things, right? I think for me, for myself, is really about trusting yourself, trusting your gut. Especially like now, like for example, I'm in an industry that is very masculine. And sometimes I feel like I have to conform and play a game to fit that role. No, if I'm feminine, I'm feminine. I'm woman, I'm woman. That's not something that I cannot change about myself. So I want to live my truth. That is the first thing, right? Second thing is something that my father used to say, and he passed away this year. So before he passed away, I was trying to think about what is it that my father has taught me in this entire relationship, right? Because my father and I not very close, and I always feel like I got nothing much to learn from him lah. But there was one thing that he always said, which was man proposes, God disposes, which is you boleh plan, tapi at the end of the day Tuhan yang tentukan. So you don't have to overthink, don't have to, just live your life. You just live your life, and whatever is meant to be, whatever is meant to happen for you in your life, it will happen.
Oh, sangat tersentuh rasanya dengan kata-kata Priya tu. Memang betul sebenarnya kan, kita boleh merancang je sebenarnya. Baik, semoga apa yang dikongsikan oleh Priya tu boleh menjadi manfaat kepada penonton kita. Apapun, saya mewakili majalah Nona nak mengucapkan tahniah.
Thank you.
Dan juga semoga semua perkongsian ini memberi manfaat kepada semua. Terima kasih Priya.
Thank you.
Bye.